Joining me now is Queensland LNP Senator Susan McDonald. Senator, thanks for your time tonight. Our fishing communities are under threat, and the left are using reports of groups like UNESCO to justify their actions. What is going on here?
Well, Cory, this is possibly one of the most shocking things that I've seen since I've been in Parliament, where UNESCO is running the show, is determining policies for Australian agriculture. They are directing the Labor government, federally, who's now offloading the decision to the state government, about banning gill net fishing. Now, the pretext is for the Great Barrier Reef. But I've spent some time asking questions at estimates about speaking to fishermen, whether it be in Corumba or Cairns or Tully, as I did this morning, about the science that they are carrying out. They work to a higher standards than what's legislated and regulated for their nets, for where they fish and how they fish. These are people who in some cases are hundreds of kilometres away from the Great Barrier Reef. And in the cases of those who are close to the Great Barrier Reef, they are inshore fishermen. It is devastating to see that no science has been used at all. They have to document and log every trip. They have to have GPS beacons. They have to log every interaction with a threatened species and bycatch. And yet the fisheries departments are reflecting no incidents, no impacts from these commercial fishermen, and yet these are some of the excuses that have been used to allow UNESCO to direct Tanya Plibersek, the Environment Minister, and then to direct the State Agricultural Minister, Mark Furner, to shut down gill net fishing. And it gets worse, Cory, because the shutdown is the 31st of December, with almost no consultation. And on the 1st of January, it will be an offence to have gill nets in your possession. Their compensation is only available for nets. It's not available for boats, for processing, for the generations of professional fishing that's happened in these communities. It is shocking, and I'm really distressed about what it's going to do to these communities, to Australian standard of living, because it will drive up the cost of all fish when fishermen are forced out of the gill net portion of the year. It'll drive up the cost of living and means that if you enjoy wild-caught barramundi, you won't be very soon, thanks to this weird deal between an offshore entity being UNESCO, green activists, and a very sensitive federal environment minister who's trying to secure her own seat in inner city Sydney.
It's just madness why, there's talk around the world about food security and the risks to it, and we're going down this path, which is making it more difficult for all Australians. But more significantly, Senator, this is going to have a devastating impact on some of these communities that I spoke about. I mean, what could you see happening to one that is a fishing village, for example, if they're not allowed to fish anymore?
Well, Cory, the perfect example is Corumba. Corumba is the natural port in North Queensland on the Gulf of Carpentaria. It is primarily a fishing town, and without these fishing families and businesses, the school closes, the teacher goes, the nurse practitioner goes, the policeman goes. That town, which is the front line on our very long Northern Australian coast, those eyes and ears disappear. We are more vulnerable to illegal smuggling, illegal people smuggling and drug smuggling. We're more vulnerable to biosecurity risks when there are not people on that coastline being able to keep a watchful eye out for what's going on. But there is generations of professionalism in these families. This morning I met two fishing families, and one family brought their son, a 14-year-old boy, who thought that he was following in not just his father's footsteps, but his grandfather's footsteps. These are people who are incredibly professional. This is a calling. They go to the sea because they know that they can make a living out of providing great Australian seafood to the rest of us who can't catch our own fish. 80% of Queenslanders can't catch their own fish. And so they rely on these professional fishermen who operate in places like Corumba, which, by the way, is nowhere near the Great Barrier Reef. Nowhere near. Fish would have to grow legs and walk across the Cape in order to be anywhere near the Great Barrier Reef. These fishermen work to such a high standard, but it won't just be the fishermen. It'll be the net makers, the marine maintenance crew, the cold room storage operators, the freezer trucks. It will be the small businesses, the fish and chip operators who rely on being able to afford to buy affordable fish from fishermen to sell to us for Friday night, or the flash restaurant that takes these high quality fish that are wild caught around the coast of Australia. Where will we get our fish from? Well, who knows? Maybe we'll have to buy it from Vietnam or Malaysia. People who don't operate to the same high standards that our fishermen do.
Yeah, you can bet that the Vietnam or Malaysia or China, they're not listening to UNESCO saying, you've got to save a reef. It's just incredible that we're going down this path, attacking a primary industry, attacking communities, livelihoods. It's going to cost, I'm guessing, billions of dollars. It's going to impact the economy. Would that be an accurate figure?
Well, that's exactly right, Cory. So the government has set aside some fairly paltry amount because they are only intending to buy back the nets. They're not intending to buy back the processing plants that might cost millions of dollars. They're not intending to buy back the boats, the freezer rooms. They're not intending to buy back all those businesses that support it. And they're not intending to provide additional jobs or various jobs for Indigenous communities in these more remote places. They are just taking jobs and business away from Australians right across the country. And here's the real rub, Cory, is that it appears that the only places that are listening to UNESCO and following this gillnet ban are Australia and Canada. What about all the other countries that are saying, no, we believe in food security, we believe in our fishermen, we want to see our own high quality wild-caught fish. But this government, this Labor government, is hell-bent on attacking farming, fishing, forestry, whether it be the live export ban in Western Australia, the buyback of water out of the Murray-Darling, the removal of water financing for North Queensland, and now this attack on fishing. It is shocking. It is very serious.
It's crazy.
And I'm very concerned. Absolutely, Cory. It is an attack by an Australian government on
Senator,
Australians.
Senator, I've almost out of time, but I've got to give you a bit of praise here because a couple of weeks ago you told us about Labor funding climate legal activists, and now today we've got one of their own is calling out the madness of the government giving $10 million, I think it was, to a legal fund to fight against basically Australian industry.
That's right. Australian government decisions. We have the highest regulatory standards in the world. The EDO is fighting battles against Australian government decisions, and they are making us the poorer for it. Be really clear. When they shut down the resources projects that they have already delayed and will in time shut down just by these companies have been forced to go offshore to get approvals for projects. Today it's resources, tomorrow it's agriculture. Be very clear, they will not be satisfied until there is no Australian jobs, no Australian prosperity, and we are all sitting under trees. It is extraordinary that Labor would have funded an organisation that at its very heart is wanting to shut down Australian jobs.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Senator Susan McDonald, the Shadow Resources Minister. Enjoy your last couple of weeks in Canberra for this year, but try and put a stop to some of this madness, please.